Okay, so after I juice the hammers up like that, I do want to see where that strike point should be. I'm really happy with the difference it made. Makes me feel a lot more hopeful about this being an awesome piano. A lot of times the Steinways, you know, their limiting area of the range is right here in this, I'm up here, so in this kind of melody section, ironically, right? Because that's right where you want it to speak out.
Right.
And I don't know if that's why, but so.
And is it just in between these two bars? Is that specifically where it is?
It's usually weakest, usually right after the break. These notes are actually fairly strong, and they get in my ear actually. I don't know if it's just my ear. Some of these notes can really just rattle my brain.
Yeah.
And then, but when you get about to A5, B flat, B, somewhere in there, there's sometimes a drop off without doing something to compensate, hardening the hammer or something like that. And sometimes the two notes on this side of the break, I notice, can be really just not much there.
Sure.
I mean, it's a short string, right? We're asking a lot of this little string and this little piece of the soundboard.
Tiny.
All the same, we love it when it's like just gorgeous up there. So
and
we
really
just
quick,
maximize it.
This is probably too basic. Can you just take our audience through when you said A5 or whatever?
Oh yeah.
Just kind of show us. Because it's quick to understand once you've established, but I know that's A0 down there, which is a little confusing.
I would love to take our audience through that because it makes my life so much easier.
Yeah, so when your tuner comes, you don't say 3 Ds above middle C.
Yeah, or whatever system it is, you know, D, triple prime, you know, even though I was music, you know, I studied music, but I still don't like that system, whatever, forgive me whoever invented that system, but it just doesn't work for the piano very well. So A0, because, okay, we're thinking of, for some reason we like C on the piano, right? It's Do, I think, in most countries.
Yeah.
So anytime we have a full octave, we're going to go ahead and number the octaves. 88 notes on the piano, there's 8 full octaves, right?
Okay.
So this is C1 right here. C2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, C8.
Okay.
Okay. This little piece that we have of 3 notes on the bottom, we just give them A0, A sharp 0, B0.
Okay, perfect.
So if you're working with a technician, it could be very helpful, you know, oh, this note's a little hot, this note doesn't repeat so well. It's really helpful for me to, you know, if I have a concert pianist come through and they leave a few notes and say, hey, work on this, you know, G sharp 4, except the caveat to that is don't write it wrong.
Don't say G flat.
I had a pianist that was playing something where she was going like this the whole concert. You know, and something was wrong with the repetition on that note.
Uh-huh.
And so she wrote on her notes G4 instead of G sharp 4.
Uh-huh.
I didn't have enough time to go through the whole piano and make it right. I had to just go with her notes.
Uh-huh.
So I worked very diligently on the wrong note. And I checked in with her after the concert. She said, yeah, these other notes were better with the repetition, but the one that was the most important was still bad. At least I know what I did would have solved the problem. I went back to the piano later and did it. But yeah, so get it right. C1, 2, 3, 4. Middle C, C4.
And do you like to specify sharps or flats, or you don't care?
I don't care. I'm a musician, you know.
Right, yeah.
You know, but when tuners use, you know, a digital tuning device to help them tune, it's usually, the nomenclature is only to use a sharp.
Okay, good to know. So just a little side note there, leave notes for your tuner and label them with the right number. It's very quick that way.
Yeah, because there isn't enough time to do everything on a piano that you need to do. You really need to prioritize, and that really helps the process. Okay, so we set the strike point where we want it, but right now it sounds terrible. Right now there's hardly any sound coming out of there because we put more paraloid on it, which is now drying.
Oh, okay.
So as soon as you put that liquid on there, and it's not hard yet, and I put it from A on up, so listen. Just an instant drop off, you know. But this is almost where the piano started, right?
Right. Yeah.
This is kind of what it was voiced like before we started working on it. So.
And that is something as well that I just want to touch on briefly is you adjust to pianos so quickly. Not as I'm saying as the pianist, you adjust. So you might think, oh, geez, my technician didn't brighten this enough, even though he brightened it significantly, because you get used to it after a day and you still want it brighter, or vice versa, like I want that to be softer and softer. So try to make recordings at home of your piano so that you can compare and see how far your piano has actually come. Sometimes we get delusional when we're 8 hours a day at the piano or however long of what actually has happened. So just a little side note.
Oh, definitely, yeah. It's easy to get lost when I'm voicing for hours on end. You know, it's good to step away from it and come back to it. It's different. You realize, oh, it's not what I thought. Yeah, it sounds pretty good. Okay, we're gonna bed the keyframe. The keyframe was the thing we were sliding in and out. And I have some adjustable glides down in here, and I think we're getting this on my head cam. These adjustable glides correspond with a smooth brass piece underneath, and we're gonna run that down so it makes firm contact all the way across the keyboard, giving a good solid foundation down there. If it's floating, the action is just kind of spongy.
Okay.
So, and also if they're raised and they're not quite hitting the wood, you can get a knock sometimes. Usually you'll get a knock up on this front rail if it's not bedded correctly.
Yeah, we actually got that on my Hamburg the other day.
Oh yeah, on the bass, that's very common.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's annoying. You know, if you hear like a big thump and a click, you know, and you have a Steinway, it's probably on the ends, and it's probably because it's floating a little bit.
Gotcha. So run me through that. I was a little distracted with getting the cam set right. So we're just adjusting the height of these
glide bolts.
Okay.
Yeah, underneath, they're the things that make contact with the key bed.
Okay, perfect.
So I'm gonna simulate pedaling, a heavy pedaler. I'm gonna pedal pretty hard on the sustain pedal down here, and then I'm gonna push the middle pedal, then I'm gonna use my knee to like shove the lyre down. Okay, don't do this, don't try this at home. And look, when I do that, I get a knock here.
Uh-huh.
So I know I'm gonna bed that. Here I don't get a knock on this bolt. So first of all, I'm gonna raise them all to where they're knocking.
Okay.
And it's this right here. Because when I know they're knocking, I know they're in really close proximity. I know right where they are.
Okay.
Notice I made this one knock. Now this one's not knocking because they're interactive, right? You lower the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I kind of have to hit it in a few passes here.
So you kind of start with it neutralized where everything's knocking, then just tighten it back down to the point where it's not.
To where it's just making firm enough contact, but not adding too much extra friction for when the keyboard is shifting.
Sure.
Now look really close. So I'm gonna do this with my head cam too. As I push down on this glide, see the keys floating, moving up and down.
Uh-huh.
That's because there's no firm contact there. And as soon as I engage this, let's see, it's still knocking, so now I'm gonna do it a little further. There, now it's not knocking. Now I'm gonna push down on it now. They don't move.
Okay.
It's just an illustration. It's giving you a real solid foundation. You're not losing the energy you're putting into the piano.
I see.
It's giving it back to you.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I love about Steinway, this good hard wood, you know, just really good woods in the action frame. So it just feels so solid to play on as long as it's bedded properly.
Okay, great.
A lot of other pianos, it just feels kind of flimsy.
Okay.
Or can, I should say.
Yeah.
Okay, so here I'm gonna, now I lower it to where I don't get a knock, but I can lift it with my fingers and I can get a knock. So then I know I'm not making too firm a contact. Maybe that's getting too nerdy, but.
Are you lifting the pin with your fingers?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Very strong. So, honestly, the hardest part, one of the hardest things for new technicians when I'm teaching someone is to get a knock, to be able to hit it with enough force to get it to knock.
Oh.
Apparently that's difficult, but I've been doing it so long I forget, so.
And why is this not done at the factory?
It is.
Oh, okay.
This is something that changes weekly, daily
okay.
with the weather. Now, that being said, I mean, a new piano will change quite a bit. But once I do it, it goes through the different seasons of the year. Once I've done it a few times, it pretty much settles down and it stays bedded.
Okay.
So particularly with a new piano or just a piano that has not been maintained to speak of,
Sure.
you probably need to bed the keyframe. And this directly affects the touch and what we were talking about with the key travel, the key dip, how far the key goes down.
Uh-huh.
If I raise these, if I engage these and raise the action by lowering those down, it increases the key dip
Oh, okay.
drastically. So it's like you can kind of regulate a piano in a quick fix wholesale by adjusting these down. You can increase your dip. Now, if they were bedded too firmly and this rail, it's pushing this rail really high, the key height's really high, and so you have more key travel, then you could also decrease your dip by adjusting them.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, it might be a good practice to kind of set them in the middle, but
So as you tighten them, the keys are raised, thus increase. Am I getting this wrong?
no, that's right. It's kind
So
of like
thus-
tightening. I mean, they don't get tighter, they go down,
Okay,
and they push the balance rail up, and the keys get higher.
which increases
But this
your
rail
key.
stays, yeah. So the key goes higher,
And so you have a
more
higher
dip.
key. Okay.
Yep.
Wow.
So
That
this
could
is-
have drastic consequences.
Oh yeah,
then, so.
but I love it because at the end of regulating, you're like, this piano just feels a little too shallow.
Uh-huh.
Crank them down a tiny bit. Perfect.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it's a really great
That's really cool.
adjustment.
You hear key bedding, you're like, this is going to be a snoozer segment. And that's probably one of the biggest consequences of this whole process, I would imagine.
Yeah. Okay. So I got them all very uniform, so I'm liking that. This is still drying, remember? It's getting a little stronger,
Uh-huh.
but still not there. But don't fear, you know, it'll come back. So,
Yeah. Okay.
all right.